Good evening, I'm Jose Cardenas. Will the changing demographics of the Latino vote affect the 2016 presidential election? We'll talk about Latino voters in politics today, plus a program helping undocumented youth refugees adjust to a life in the United States, and learn about a program hoping to be a key part of the future of Alzheimer's prevention research. All this coming up straight ahead on Horizonte.
Funding for Horizonte is made possible by contributions by the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station.
Thank you for joining us. The first Republican and Democratic primaries are less than a month away. Whether and how the Latino vote will impact the 2016 election is a hotly debated topic. Joining me to talk about this is John Loredo, political analyst and former Arizona lawmaker, and Joe Garcia, director of the ASU Morrison Institute Latino Public Policy Center. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us on Horizonte. One of the reasons I wanted to talk about this was a provocative article by Roberto Suro, who's well respected, headed the Pew Hispanic Research Center in Washington, is now a professor at USC. And the headline of his piece in the New York Times is "Whatever Happened to Latino Political Power?" And he's expressing concern that despite the growing number of Hispanic voters, there may be no impact in this election for a variety of reasons. John, what do you think?
That's certainly not the case here in Arizona. Arizona has the largest growth of Latino voters in the United States. The impact here, I think, is being felt from school boards to city councils, to the state legislature, where we've seen an uptick, a pretty steady uptick in Latinos getting elected. Their impact on policy at the local level has been fairly important. And when you look at the growth in Latino vote during the last presidential election in 2014, Latinos were 16% of the overall electorate that was eligible to vote, yet they were 18% of those who actually voted. That is an overperformance. That doesn't happen everywhere, but it happened here. And so that type of turnout, which is, the only, I think it was the second highest vote share in the entire country. That type of turnout is not by accident. It's because Latino voters here are motivated and they have the means to get involved in the political process, and they do. So, when I see articles like this that paint with pretty broad brush strokes overall, the whole country, that may be true in other places, but it is certainly not the case here.
Well, just one question before I move on to Joe. What happened in 2014 with the Latino vote? That could have made the difference in David Garcia becoming the state superintendent, and it wasn't there. Off-year
elections always have a lower turnout. They just do. But when you have to look at the overall electorate. Young voters skipped that election completely. They were in the single digits. They just didn't show up. You have, and it didn't matter what color they are, they just didn't show up. You have different segments of the voting electorate that are on the downturn. You've got different segments that just don't turn out at all. You can't just put the success of elections on the Latino vote themselves. They have been, I think they were 13% of the electorate during last year's election. That's one of the highest Latino turnouts in the country. So it takes a lot of different groups of voters in order for Latinos or Democrats to win. The only growth in the Democratic Party has been Latino voters. The other segments of that group need to carry their own weight as well. And until they actually increase their turnout like Latinos are, they can't expect much.
Joe, one of the points that Professor Suro makes is that Latinos are focused on what is perhaps a losing issue. What unites the Latino voting bloc is immigration. And so they support Democrats. Democrats haven't come through for them. Witness the failure of the Democrats to get meaningful immigration reform through, and then Obama is labeled as the chief deporter. And on the other hand, they may have mobilized an anti-immigrant vote and driven voters who might otherwise vote for Democrats into the Republican Party. How do you assess that?
Well, I think if you look at Latino voters, I'm glad that the article started with a question, because it is a question. I think the question should be, where will Latino voting power be in the future? and not so much what happened to it. Because, I mean, largely we were talking about an emerging Latino voter in Arizona and elsewhere that is coming up. And they are largely pro-immigration. And it is a key component, but not the most important issue. And I think that's important too. So the candidate who supports jobs and education and does the best selling job on those points is probably going to get the Latino vote. But it should be pointed out too that if you come across too harshly on immigration issues, it's interpreted by the Latino community as anti-Latino. And that's a long memory there. And to switch direction of an aircraft carrier like that, if that's your position, is very difficult to do. So rhetoric, political rhetoric that's going on today is going to have ramifications for decades to come. So it's kind of what is happening. And I think it's important to note too that potential Latino voters oftentimes are still too young to vote. But every year there's a new wave of Latino voters who are voting age, and they are going to vote. I think the younger generation is going to vote eventually in a more frequent style than their parents do. So, but it's not going to be a single issue. It's not going to be just immigration.
Well, though one of the things he points out is that the reaction of the Dreamers, for example, to the really harsh rhetoric coming from Donald Trump hasn't been that strong. And he compares it to the really strong reaction you got from the Black Lives Matter group. And he said, where is the indignation that might mobilize that voting bloc?
Well, I think it's very different. It's a culture thing as well. I think if you look at the track when it comes to civil rights and rights in general between African Americans and Latinos, it's very different. But I think the passion is still there. The reaction is still there. It doesn't mean that there's going to be protests, that there's going to be grabbing a microphone to speak a presidential candidate. It doesn't mean that's going to be there. But I'm saying that it resonates and it has a long-lasting effect. Donald Trump has a long-lasting effect on how Latinos are going to vote, not only in this coming election, but for future elections to come. So, I mean, the question I think the Republicans are all asking and are worried somewhat is, are we destroying the Republican Party for the future for Latinos just by a single candidate and harsh rhetoric coming from Donald Trump?
And so I think he needs to get out from behind his computer screen and take a look outside, because that reaction is there. That outrage is there. Donald Trump gets interrupted at almost every stop he makes by young Latinos who are outraged at his rhetoric. It happened here. It's happened all over the country. He is being dogged all over the place by young Latinos who are confronting him on his position, very hateful position, on immigrants and Latinos in particular. So I think that outrage is there.
Well, John, what about the suggestion that Latinos are diminishing their effectiveness, their power, by being so loyal to the Democratic Party? That if they really want to have an impact, there'd be much greater balance between the two parties.
I don't think that's the case. There are, like I said, it's between 2002 and 2014, Arizona had a 165% increase in Latino voters. That's the highest, most dramatic increase in the entire country. Many of those
people who
voters,
actually voted or registered?
Both. When you look at the vote share, like I said, in 2014, second highest vote share in the entire country. It's happening. And but when you look at how Latinos register, about half of them, if not more than half, register as independents. There's a reason for that, and it's not that they don't like Democrats or it's that they vote based on the issue. Young Latino voters, they may not be loyal to a brand, they are loyal to their community and loyal to their issues that matter most to them. And I think that's a good thing, because they hold people accountable. To them, brand is simply not what you're loyal to. You're loyal to the issues. And holding Democrats and Republicans accountable to those issues, I think, is a really important thing to take notice of, because they're doing it. They're doing it at all levels of government, whether it be talking about issues at the city council meeting or in school boards or in the state legislature. They're holding people accountable. And Latino voters will vote based on those issues that they see out their front door, in many cases, before they will vote, based on a national issue.
Joe, there's a decent chance it looks like, as we sit here today, that there will be a Republican at the head of the, a Latino at the head of the Republican ticket, either Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz. How do you think that impacts the significance of the Latino vote?
Well, I don't think just ethnicity is going to be a determinator. I don't necessarily think Latinos view Ted Cruz as a Latino. I'm not even sure that he views himself as a Latino. So I think that cancels itself out. Rubio, though, allows more of an opportunity there, but he would have to, of course, move more towards the center. So it's possible. But I think it's going to come down to not, who you are, what your ethnic background is. It's not even your personal history, your family story. It's what you're going to provide for families today and tomorrow in the future.
Both of their personal stories do seem to resonate in a way for many Hispanics.
Mm-hmm.
The people who came to this country, their parents came to this country, they lived a tough life, they succeeded, their children are better off than they were. That does seem to resonate with many people, don't you think?
It absolutely does. But if the message is, but we're still going to deport you, that message cancels itself out again. So I think it's an understanding. Comprehensive immigration reform looked like it had life for a while. The problem was people thought it was a compassionate immigration reform. But without a pathway to citizenship, it's pretty much DOA when it comes to the Latino community understanding what can happen. Because the American dream has become an American reality, and that means legality for Latinos. And I think that, we form our opinions very young age, 8, 9, 10. People have very long memories. Our study, when we did on Arizona's emerging Latino voter, we looked at that, and we were predicting by 2030, Arizona could become a blue progressive state, largely because of the Latino vote. The young Latinos coming of age where they can vote, but independents and Democrats voting in a block somewhat when it comes to key issues for Latinos, and the declining Republican Party, it could really change the outcome. So Arizona, what we're seeing right now is not where we haven't elected a statewide office holder, a Latino, since Governor Raul Castro 40 years ago. What we're seeing now is kind of a snapshot of the past and not a picture of the future. Latinos are I don't know if you can win an election anymore without the Latino vote, and that's become more powerful as each year goes forward.
So John, last question, we're almost out of time. But one other aspect of a Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz at the head of the ticket is they're both Cuban descent. Mm-hmm. Cubans comprise less than 3% of the Hispanic population in the United States. Mexican descent Hispanics are about 78%. The two communities have not always gotten along. Traditionally, Cubans vote Republican, Mexicans vote Democrat. Do you think people would vote against those two guys because they're Cuban?
There may be some, I'm sure. But, when you look at the dramatic increase in Latino voting in Arizona in particular, that doesn't happen because you have an uninformed Latino electorate. Latinos are informed. They vote on the issues, and there is an atmosphere of holding people accountable. There is a feeling that we're under attack by the right wing with some pretty hateful, really racist rhetoric. That may be a motivating factor to get engaged and vote against somebody, but voting for somebody means that they actually have to be right on the issues. They have to be right on immigration, yes, but they have to be right on public education. They have to be right on the economy and jobs.
And I should end this segment, by noting that the polling does suggest that immigration is not the number one issue with Hispanics. It is the economy, it is jobs, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about all of that, a lot more in the next few months. Thank you both for joining us on Horizonte to talk about it now. In the summer of 2014, ICE and U.S. Customs and Border Protection bust hundreds of undocumented immigrants from South Texas to Arizona, many of them from Central America. There's a program here in the Valley helping undocumented teens adjust to life here in the United States. Joining me to talk about this is Dr. Sherry Jones, Director of the Phoenix Dream Center Living Youth Program. Dr. Jones, welcome to Horizonte. So you guys have been in existence for 2006. You hadn't dealt previously with undocumented youth. How did that come about?
You know, we began to see a need, and what the Dream Center does is when they hear of a need, they try to meet it. We try to find those populations that are in the direst need, whether they are poverty-stricken or they are in sexual exploitation or they are unwed pregnant women or whatever the need is. Then the Phoenix Dream Center, our mission is to find a need and fill it, or find a hurt and heal it. So when we saw the reports on the news of these undocumented youth that were coming across unaccompanied, they're sent here by their parents, and the fact that they end up with nowhere to go. They have no money, they don't speak English, they don't know a big city, they don't know how to ride a bus. There's so much that they don't know, and when they come across the border, last year, 30,000 of them were apprehended at our southwest borders. So when they turn 18, then they are released, and they either go into...
And those are the ones you're focused on,
That's
right?
the ones we focused on, the 18 to 21-year-olds.
And as I understand, the catalyst for your organization's involvement with this particular group, because you work with youth.
We work with youth, yes,
in
aged out
a
foster.
variety of difficult circumstances. But the immediate catalyst was the Florence Immigration Project reached out to you and said, we've got a problem.
Yeah, they did. They called us and said, we know that you deal with youth, 18 to 21 years old, maybe aged out foster youth or homeless youth. Can you help us with these refugee youth?
And what have you been doing?
We bring them in, typically on their 18th birthday, because that's when they are released. If the Florence Project hasn't completed all their legal paperwork yet, then we bring them in. We house them right there at the Dream Center on Grand Avenue. It's a former Embassy Suites hotel. So it has individual suites and rooms. So we bring them in, we provide them with housing, we provide them with clothing and food, and everything from their toothbrush to their laundry soap is provided for them free of charge for as long as they need to stay there to get their legal paperwork done.
And you've helped how many kids so far?
So far in the last 5 months, we've helped about a dozen.
And if people want more information on your program and what they can do to be involved, how would they get that?
They can either find it on our website at www.phxdreamcenter.org. They can call 602-346-8767 and find out information about what we're doing. We always need volunteers. We need people who speak Spanish. Most of these kids are coming from Central America, Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, some from Mexico, and we even have one now from Africa. But we need volunteers to provide support for these young people so they don't feel so isolated and so alone.
So hopefully you'll get those volunteers, and we'll have you back on the show to talk more about this great program. Thank you so much for joining us.
That'd be totally awesome. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
To find out more information about what's on Horizonte, go to azpbs.org and click on the Horizonte tab at the top of the screen. There you can access many features to become a more informed Horizonte viewer. Watch interviews by clicking on the video button or by scrolling down to the bottom of the page for the most recent segments. Learn about more specific topics like arts and culture and immigration. You can also find out what's on Horizonte for the upcoming week. If you would like an RSS feed, a podcast, or you want to buy a video, that's all on our website too. Other features include our collection of website links and a special page for educators. While you're there, show your support for Horizonte with just one click. Discover all that's on Horizonte. Visit azpbs.org, Horizonte today.
Gene Match is the first of its kind program that will identify individuals who are willing to participate in studies based on a gene that may increase their risk of developing Alzheimer's. The program is a key part of the future of Alzheimer's prevention research because it has the potential to speed up recruitment to help in the discovery of treatments that may slow or prevent the progression of Alzheimer's disease. Here now to talk about the program is Dr. Jessica Langbaum, Principal Scientist for Banner Alzheimer's Institute. Dr. Langbaum, thanks for joining us this evening to talk about this. As I understand, this is a program that has national reach, but it's headquartered here in Phoenix. Tell us about it.
That's right. Banner Alzheimer's Institute is the lead center in this program, and we really are developing an infrastructure to help accelerate enrollment into research studies. This program, Gene Match, is open to individuals between the ages of 55 and 75 years of age who live in the United States and don't have any memory and thinking problems like Alzheimer's disease. And our goal is to help match people to research studies and fill those studies faster.
And this is an expansion of something that already exists. I mean, there is a registry right now. People can sign up and what, they give their background information and what happens after that?
Certainly. So we have the Alzheimer's Prevention Registry, which is a way that we can help raise awareness about research studies. 80% of research studies fail to meet their enrollment goals, which means it takes us even longer to get to answers. Is a treatment working? Can we delay the onset of Alzheimer's disease? Can we prevent it? Gene Match allows us to take the registry one step further and help fill studies based on people that we think might be best suited for a particular trial based on their genetic information.
And so they give you a swab, actually, and you do a genetic analysis.
Correct, and that genetic analysis is kept confidential. We don't share the information with anybody unless that participant asks us to do so for a particular study. It's all kept very confidential and secure, but it does help us allow us to find the best individuals for a particular study in hopes that we can get to answers faster.
And as I understand, one of the problems that you're dealing with is the fact that Hispanics aren't as participating in these kinds of studies in as greater numbers as they should, given their numbers in the population.
That's correct. So Hispanics are very much affected by Alzheimer's disease. We know that they're 1.5 times more likely to develop Alzheimer's disease compared to Caucasians. Their numbers are going to skyrocket by 2050, perhaps 6-fold more. But they're not participating in research. And so we really, overall, as a field, really want to make sure that we're filling studies with people who might most benefit from treatments. And so we're looking to minority populations, Latinos, African Americans, to consider joining Alzheimer's research studies so that treatments are developed that are effective for everybody, not just Caucasians that participate in the research process.
Now, a little bit more about this particular gene study. It's APOE is the gene that you're looking for. And what's the significance of that?
APOE is the best established genetic risk factor for Alzheimer's disease. Everybody has APOE, and it comes in 3 types. And depending on which type you get from your mom and your dad, puts you at different levels of risk for developing Alzheimer's disease. If you happen to get the 2 copies of the 4 type, the bad high-risk type, I should say, that puts you at the highest risk for developing Alzheimer's disease. It's not deterministic. That means just because you get those 2 copies does not mean that you will definitely get Alzheimer's disease, but your chances are 30 to 55% that you will develop Alzheimer's disease by age 85. If you have 1 copy, your risk is slightly lower, about 20-25%. And of course, there are people with no copies. So we're looking at which treatments might be most effective based on your genetic risk for developing Alzheimer's disease.
Now, in terms of disclosure, if somebody gives a swab and it's analyzed, under what circumstances would they be told that they have either 1 or both or two of these particularly harmful genes?
Gene Match as a program does not disclose genetic results. We think that genetic disclosure must be done with genetic counseling. So if a study that is recruiting from Gene Match and that we refer a participant to asks somebody to learn their genetic results, it's always up to the participant whether they decide that they want to proceed and learn those results, or they may say, thank you, but no thank you, I'd prefer not to know. The choice is always theirs. If somebody does decide to learn their results, again, we think it should be done by a genetic counselor to clearly explain all the implications, all the impact, and all the information that they may learn.
Put it in context.
Exactly. Just reading on a computer screen isn't enough. You really need a genetic counselor, somebody who can walk through the issues with you, explain what the results mean and don't mean for yourself, for your family members, for your loved ones.
So how do people go about participating in Gene Match? What are the steps?
It's really quite simple. People can go to our website, www.endalznow.org. That's the Prevention Registry's website. If you're between the ages of 55 and 75, you'll be offered Gene Match. We also have a direct contact to Gene Match by going to our website, /Gene Match.
Well, this is very useful information, and it does seem as if Arizona has become the center for research in this area, and we thank you very much for joining us on Horizonte to discuss this.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's our show for tonight. Thanks for watching from all of us here at Horizonte and your Arizona PBS station. I'm Jose Cardenas. Have a good evening.
Funding for Horizonte is made possible by contributions by the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station.